Good morning, and good morning. I knew I was running a little bit late. I was. I forgot I had to take the garbage out to the street. So I did that and it put me back by what? Oh my goodness. I'm a little late by 3 minutes. But anyway, good morning. How was your weekend? How are you doing now? The sun is coming up, so it's about to bother me. It moved from my left side to my right side now. Yeah, but I'm gonna leave it alone today. I'm gonna just tolerate it. I'm gonna do my best to tolerate it. But today I wanted to talk about something that I um, I know a little bit about because I've had a few family members on with dementia. They were never diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but they did have dementia. And yesterday I did the Alzheimer's walk, and I do it every year, and I do some volunteering with the local organization, just because I believe in it. Doesn't say that I'm going to avoid if I ever get it, but just looking at the factors that sometimes surround it. Um, I don't know if I'll eventually be a dementia or advanced Alzheimer's patient, but what I'm going to say is that I'm going to live my life, and I'm live it in such a way that just makes it where I have something to do every day, because that's part of it, is having a plan. And we're not going to break the word down like we ordinarily do. Today, I'm just going to talk about the disease to shed a little light on it, because ironically enough, I believe that African Americans are, probably one of you know, the race of people that are strongly affected by Alzheimer's. In fact, I'm going to ask Google. Let's see what Google says this morning. If we were to break down the races, which races are more afflicted with Alzheimer's disease? Let's see what they say this morning. There it is, right at the top of the list. African Americans. And as everybody comes in, I will certainly put this out there, but it says African Americans and Hispanics are more likely to have Alzheimer's disease than whites. Don't know why. It says, but that's exactly what it says. It says African Americans are twice as likely as whites to have it. Hispanics 1.5 times as likely as whites to have Alzheimer's. It says, however, African Americans are only 34% more likely to be diagnosed. So to me, I'm seeing this as a way to assist, a community of people who may not realize the detriment of what Alzheimer's does to, the black race, to the Hispanic race. We just don't always know those things. So to me, that's the point I'm trying to address this morning. So it's going to be a little different than what I normally do, but we're still going to get through it. If I broke the word down, obviously that's a lot of letters. So we're not going to do it like that today. But when we talk about Alzheimer's, and as everybody comes in, I certainly want them to tell me, do you know anybody that has Alzheimer's, has had Alzheimer's, or dementia? Because dementia, certainly, if it stays around long enough, they said sometimes, and if you follow through all of the tests that are available, that you may find out that it's actually Alzheimer's. And I imagine that some people could have the mild of it or the severity of it, meaning that over time it would just progress in terms of its, I would say, devastation to the body. Good morning, Joan. How are you doing, my friend? Good morning. Good morning. I know I came in. I was dragging myself in this morning, but I am here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Alzheimer's. But if you've had Alzheimer's in your family, or if it's been one of dementia, put that in there in the thread. Just say, yes, family member, yes, friend, because I have some friends currently that are going through their There's stages of Alzheimer's disease. And these were young people when they were diagnosed. Young. They weren't, hey, good morning, my nephew in New York. Hey, Lawson. Hey, my babe. How are you? Love you. So we understand, Grand Rising. Thank you. So we understand that sometimes it may be hereditary. It may be something that they don't even know what triggers. It's unknown etiology, meaning that the trigger isn't always available to us. We may just end up having trouble and we don't know where it generated from. We just have virtually no idea. But anyway, the fact that it says, and I'm going to read this over and over again. Good morning, Tina. Tina is the bomb. That thing right there. Tina runs the local, I think it would be Santa Rosa County, Okaloosa County, and Escambia County, Florida's Alzheimer's group, her walks. She organizes all of that. She and Chastity Brooks, they're my little heroes. So I volunteer every year and I donate every year just to make sure that I let everybody know that this exists, regardless. Oh, wait a minute now. Who out there? Only thing I know is that the people are coming to get the garbage. So let me go ahead and turn my phone off. I apologize for my my delinquency this morning. I'm usually on top of everything, but let me turn my sound off. All right, sound's off. They won't hear that anymore. So anyway, Tina and Chastity, I saw them yesterday, took pictures, had a grand time, but just lovely women who knows what it's all about to put on a function that benefits our area as it is related in this instance to Alzheimer's disease. Love you, Winnie. So great to see you yesterday. Thank you, babe. It says, lost my mom in 2020 and was diagnosed at 61. Miss her every day. Yes. My late parents had dementia. Thank you guys for putting this in. I'm good. Pray for all as well. Thank you, babe. We're going to do that. I'm good too down here. Your auntie's good. Listen, presently I have a niece. Okay. So anyway, it was just given to me, last night before I finally went to sleep, that I needed to talk about this because, as I said, and I'm going to read that again a couple of times because I asked, of course, Mr. and Mrs. Google. Google sounded like it's a man, but I gave it a woman too. It says, in terms of what of the races who gets Alzheimer's more, it says African Americans and Hispanics are likely to have Alzheimer's disease more so than whites. That's the scary thing. Now, it doesn't say whites are out. It just says that in terms of just information that has come in, there's a lot in those races that come up being diagnosed. But the other thing is how many are not being diagnosed? How many never go in? How many just thinks, oh, grandma, grandpa, they're just old. Well, sometimes with aging, there may be another way to age, and how we age may be that we need someone to intercede for us, intercept for us, be there for us to say, hey, look, I know she came here and you told her something was wrong, but we don't know what's wrong. The HIPAA law sometimes may get in the way of children, needing to be there when their parents have to go in. It is an age-related disease. It says Hispanics. It says, however, African Americans are only 34% more likely to be diagnosed. It says, and while Hispanics are only 18%. And it says the study of 5,700 Blacks out of 31,225 white participants found that Black participants had more risk factors for the disease, as well as greater cognitive impairment, symptom severity, and white participants. This just, when you look at this stuff, you have to go see it in action, like to see that walk yesterday and all the people that were there. And, they were there with a purpose. And the purpose was, how do we end Alzheimer's? How do we end it? because it has no unknown real ideologies. We don't even know how it presents, but all of a sudden we're stricken. All of a sudden we're stricken. So anyway, here's some information I have. It says Alzheimer's is a progressive mental deterioration that can occur in middle. Did y'all hear me? Middle or old age. Middle. So a lot of times people think that that's an old person's disease. Good morning, Ardelia. How are you today? We're talking about Alzheimer's. And I just already told them, I'm going to tell everybody that comes in. Oh, and I need you to write down if someone you know is in your family or friends who have Alzheimer's. And, if you know that, just write it in there. You can just put a little note. But anyway, it says African Americans are more likely to have it, as well as Hispanics, than whites. And it says, I'm reading what some of the things it says. To generalize degeneration of the brain, it is the most common cause of premature senility. Premature, meaning it can come early. It says Alzheimer's disease is a brain disorder that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills, and eventually the ability to carry out the simplest of tasks. The simplest. I have two girlfriends now, and I'm going to give you just a little bit about their backgrounds. Both of them were, I would say, in high-level thinkers, had great jobs. One had her doctorate as a psychologist. The other one just always was dealing with numbers and people and positions. Okay, it required her to know some information, but it got to the point where after she left her job, we'll talk about number one. We'll call her Anne. Okay, Anne ended up where, one day I saw her and she knew me, but then she didn't know any of the things that we'd gone to lunch. She didn't know any of which, is that my plate? Is that your plate? Is that my drink? Is that your drink? Are you drinking my food? Or she might even eat out of my plate. So those are the kind of things that, told me. And I remember when I spoke with her husband, he said, yeah, she's been diagnosed, and she had actually been diagnosed probably about 2 years ago. And, it has its stages, and we'll go through them. But it just shocked me. And then the other person, we'll call her Doc. Doc ended up, on top of the world, living in a large city, lots of clients, doing lots of great stuff. But she was also stricken with it. And she came last year to an event that I had, and all she does is smile, and laughs. So she has a laugh, and a lot of times it could be something as serious as, somebody died, but she's still laughing. So, I just wanted to really bring this to the forefront that so a lot of times, this is one of those diseases that kind of, it lurks, it hangs around in the background. So we don't always pay attention to it until we might see somebody that we may think has it, where, they're slower. They don't know where they are. They don't know what they're eating. They don't know you. Those are the kinds of things that really come to mind. It says, in most people with Alzheimer's, symptoms first appear later in life. Now, it says most of them, but there are some that have early onset. A friend of mine told me that her mother was diagnosed in her late 40s. So it does. It says in most people with Alzheimer's, symptoms first appear, as I said, later in life, but there are early symptoms. So let's go through some of those early symptoms. And you all can chime in, because I can see the thread to my right here. You all chime in and tell me what you want to tell me, because I do want this to be a conversation. It says early symptoms, they forget about recent conversation or events. They just forget about it. They don't remember them. Okay. They misplace items. They forget the names or places and objects. But I don't know the name of that. What is this? My girlfriend did that. She said, what is this? And I said, well, that's your fork. But we're back. We go back. In that instance, you understand that, they're not cognitively here in the present as where we are. But yet and still we can go back and talk about school, or we can talk about work, and we're fine. We're fine. It says other early symptoms are they have trouble thinking of the right word. Now listen, that doesn't mean that every time you're talking to somebody, short-term memory loss. That's right. Sometimes we may have it where we might forget something. Okay, that's the typical aging. Okay, but young people do it too. They can't remember a certain word, blah, blah, blah. But if it's persistent, if it's consistent, if it never leaves, then that's when you have to be concerned. So it also early shines as show poor judgment to find, which makes it harder to make a decision. They can't make a decision. They might do A and A is wrong. They just may do it wrong. They just may do it wrong. It says the other thing, become less flexible and more hesitant to try new things. All of a sudden they can't do certain things. Like my mother did have dementia, my grandmother as well. They weren't diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but here's the thing, what concerned me is that, because I know now what I didn't know then, maybe if I had them tested, maybe I would have known. But my mother had me in her 40s. So, for me to try to tell my mother what to do when I'm in my 40s was like, that wasn't gonna work. So she really kept most of her, I would say most of her sense of self, purpose, and she was a dresser and she was this and that. But as she got into her mid 90s, it was more apparent that she was losing some cognitive abilities of connecting what's going on right now. Because I remember one time she was in the hospital and I went to get her, and I flew up from Florida, and she said, "Are you my sister?" And I said, "No, Mom, I'm your daughter." And she said, "Oh, I forgot that." So we laughed it off, but it is what it is. It says they're in their own reality, and each case appears to be absolutely, they're all different. There are no similarities. There really are not. There aren't. The stages of the Alzheimer's disease, generally the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease are divided into three main stages. So the early symptoms is what I just went through, okay? And also says there's also signs of mood changes, meaning they've always been a happy person and all of a sudden they might appear depressed, or they might appear aggressive, or they might be very, very passive, and they might become sullen where they don't have anything to say at all. That's some of the early signs. The middle stages says as Alzheimer's disease develops, memory problems will get worse. So they're not going to get any better. They will get worse. And it says someone with the condition may find it increasingly difficult to remember the names of people that they know, but they struggle with recognizing family members and friends. All of a sudden they don't know them. They know them a minute, they know them this time, but then the next time they see them, which might be 5 minutes later, they don't know them. They don't know them at all. It says other symptoms may also develop, such as increasing confusion and disorientation. Like I'm trying to think of the woman who had the restaurant in DC. I'm trying to think of her name, but my daughter and I went to a restaurant. The restaurant was wonderful. She was a model. She was absolutely beautiful. And she used to do a TV station, a show that would do recipes and all kinds of gorgeous things to her house and everything. But she ended up with Alzheimer's and had lost her way, and I think she had been lost like 3 or 4 days just wandering, and finally she was found. But we just never know what we may become. That's right, B Smith. That's it. B Smith. Yes. And in fact, I almost thought I had it, but I said, "Oop, I didn't write that down." But B Smith, that's an example of somebody that had it all going on, but one thing led to another thing, led to another thing. And I think her husband wrote a book about her situation, and the daughter ended up even accepting the fact that um, that she had changed from who they knew her as a mother and a wife, and therefore he ended up also having someone who came in to care for, ultimately becoming his love interest. And things happen like that. I think sometimes you never know when you're being forced to move on or accept what happens to you. It says other things is that they also may not know the time of day, and they may get day mixed up with night mixed up with the day. It just happens. It says Jones says they also forget that they have eaten. Yes, B. Smith was a cousin of a friend of mine in my hometown. Wow, she was a sharp lady, I tell you, very very sharp. Which well, we're gonna go through some of the things that we can try to do to avoid becoming, afflicted with Alzheimer's. And it says also that they have difficulty performing spatial tasks such as judgment and distance. So they think they're going to fall. They think that they're closer than they are. They think they're farther away than they are. They just misjudge, miscalculate. So the eyesight eventually is also affected. It says seeing and hearing things that other people do, such as sometimes they hallucinate, meaning what they hear is not really going on. What they think they see is not really going on. Like I had somebody, that I knew was going through having Alzheimer's disease, and they told me that they saw a man in the hall. Well, I looked down the same hall that they were looking down, and the man wasn't in the hall. And I remember making them laugh. I said, "Girl, if that man was in that hall, I'm gone." So she started laughing too. So I kind of took her off of it, but nonetheless, it was at Sundowners. That's right. It's called Sundowners. I was going to say that. So Sundowners does happen at, where at night during the day, they may be very docile and able to handle everything. And at night, they come alive. It's like all of a sudden the night just sparks on, sometimes fear, sometimes anger, sometimes aggression, and sometimes they're up all night, where they're just walking or trying to walk or calling you out, your name, or calling anybody, and sometimes they're calling a name you don't even know. It says, being at this stage, someone with Alzheimer's usually needs support to help them with their everyday living. So the second stage, right in the middle. So, and the other thing is that we're going to talk a moment about caregivers. Caregivers get burnout, plain and simple. I have a couple of people that are caregivers, and I want to do more than I can, and currently and I'm able to do. But my intention is to try to help. A couple of us took out a friend of ours not long ago, and I told, her husband when I talked to him maybe about 3 weeks ago that I was going to do that again. So sometimes we could just pitch in and help, just something as simple as giving them time to get away from the house and have a moment to themselves where they're trying to take care of themselves in the midst of taking care of a full-time job of someone else, especially if they're at this stage. It says that they at this stage are also obsessive, repetitive, or impulsive behaviors happen. So they might repeat over and over and over again. They might want to do the same thing over and over and over again. They may, like what someone said about the eating, they want to eat over and over and over again, even though they forgot that they've already eaten. It says they also have delusions, believing things are untrue. So if you say, the doctor said, they say they didn't tell me that. That was my mother. even though she didn't have Alzheimer's, or at least that I knew it. She would say, they didn't tell me that. My mom talked to a few of her family spirits toward the close of her life. That's right. That's right. That's right. My mother, I think one time called her mother, called out, talking to her. So where you at? I can't find you. They lived together pretty many years, because we grew up with we had our mother and our grandmother in our house. So we grew up like that. We were very, very used to it. And the older kids called mama grandmother, and they called my mother, our mother, by her first name. That freaked me out because I was younger, so I didn't understand it. I'm the baby. Why are y'all calling your mother that? But they were already gone by the time I came along. They also said that they had periods of being paranoid and suspicious of people and things, including family members. They would say, you stole something. They would say, I put something there and somebody took it. You didn't take it. They forgot where they left it. They forgot where they left it. So that would be a problem. And it says eventually they may have problems with their speech or language, and I think it's called aphasia, APHASIA, aphasia. They forget, the fact of how to speak. So they lose their language, their ability to speak language. And they said they have disturbances in their sleep, which is what I mentioned. Changes in the mood, such as frequent swings between depression, feeling increasingly anxious, frustrated, and agitated. My mother wasn't one to get agitated much, but I could see that she became depressed when she realized that she could no longer live by herself, and so we could see that change. We could see that change in her. Difficulty performing judgment distance, which is what I meant, seeing and hearing other things. By this stage, they also are having trouble with the everyday living, such as being able to put on their clothes, also going into the bathroom and cleaning themselves properly. They can't do it. Taking a bath, they have to have assistance. They have to. It says, I worked at the hospice nurse and visited with a lot of patients diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it's like they are fading away before your eyes. Some caregivers struggle with trying to keep them oriented. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you watch it, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, especially, and it knows no boundaries. So the person that's the scientist, the astronaut, the pilot, or the person that may be, the person you pass by every day on the street because they're homeless. It has no, it's unknown in terms of its destination. It's going. If it's in you to have that, you will have it. Period. You will have it. It says, also, when we look at the later stages of the ailment, it says the later stages of Alzheimer's, the symptoms become increasingly severe and can be distressing for the person with the condition, as well as the caregivers, the friends, and the family. There you go, right there, which is what Ardelia was saying. Whoever's giving the care. I had one friend who told me that when she would get her mother dressed, and they were supposed to be going to church, and then she'd run in and try to get herself dressed. By the time she got back into the room, her mother wasn't dressed anymore. She took her clothes off, and she said, "Oh well," and she asked her, "Well, aren't we going to church?" And so she said, "Yeah, but we got to get dressed again." So that is wear and tear. It says it's just such wear and tear. Sometimes with Alzheimer's disease, there could be violence, and the violence, it says, could be that they think that somebody's harming them, so they may do harm, not intentionally. When I first moved to Pensacola, I was a respite care manager, And so I would manage the respite care of various patients that were on the city county rolls around the city. And I was just amazed when I would go out with some of the respite care workers. I was amazed because some of them were violent, some of them would, spit or kick or fight. Some of them would just be, it balled up in a corner, not talking. Um, Others would act like they were flirtatious. You just never knew what you would find. But it was just very enlightening to me to know that that's one of the reasons that even our club, my Rotary Club I'm in, we support Alzheimer's. Every single week we give to Alzheimer's because we feel it's just a disease that anybody can be afflicted with. And it says a number of symptoms may develop in the latter stage, which makes it even more progressive, such as difficulty eating and swallowing, where they can no longer swallow their food. So some of them have had to have, the I guess it's like an injection or something where they're hooked up to a machine and they're getting it through their stomach. Um, and then the other one, difficult changing positions or moving around, meaning they're in a chair, and as long as they're in that chair, they're fine. But if you ask them to move out that chair, they can't, or they have trouble getting out the chair. They have trouble getting. They may struggle with family members and friends who are trying to help them. Other symptoms may also develop, such as increasing confusion and the disorientation. They said could be so severe where they think they're in their childhood living room and they're in their own house, but they don't know that anymore. It says also getting lost, and we always hear the alerts that they put out on TV and through the radio system that says that somebody of this age looks like this. This is a picture of them, and last seen wearing. They put that out there. It is important to have trustworthy caregivers. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's also necessary for the caregiver to get a break, because I've seen it where the caregiver dies or ends up with a stroke or some debilitating disease that they can no longer care for their patient or their parent. The interesting thing is that like most people who are sick, after a while they get used to who is there and who is coming, so they're not good with new people showing up. They're not good unless they're consistent. They're consistent. But some patients have been so severe is that the caregiver says, I can't do that. That's too much. Requires too much. They're too heavy. I can't move them. I know they have a lift machine, but they don't even help with that. So there's so many things, so many reasons what happens to folks that are going through Alzheimer's, the progressiveness of Alzheimer's. It says the other thing is that they not only wander in the day, but they wander at night, and through their periods of confusion, they think that you're not there for them, and you are. But once again, they may become aggressive with that. Um, let's see, what else do I have? Um, let's see. They weight loss. You're going to see that they have a lot of weight loss eventually because they can't eat. Sometimes severe weight loss where they may lose 20, 30, 50 pounds, and they didn't have 20, 30, or 50 pounds to lose. Um, let's see, specifically, yeah, hired CNAs. That's right, hired CNAs, yes. And sometimes they're so severe they even need a nurse to come in, because you have to be concerned with decubitus sores, bed sores. And some of them can get so severe they go down to the bone, and also can basically form sepsis in the system. I'm not a doctor, not that kind of doctor, but I worked in the hospital and, for a while as a counselor, so I knew what some of the doctor's notes said regarding those kinds of things that happen to people that, it was hard to move them or they refused to move and all those kinds of things. That's when other stuff sets in. And then they said they're also incontinent, where they can't always hold on to their fluids. They can't. Or stools. So it's be both bowel and urinary incontinence. Gradual loss of speech. Eventually, they said that they may just become mute. They don't have anything to say. They can't think of anything to say. The brain is pretty much atrophied, so they can't. In severe stages of Alzheimer's disease, people may need full-time care, which is what Joan is talking about with the CNA. That's usually part-time. Full-time, I knew a lady that used to have a full-time nurse and CNA when somebody was in there because her business was too big to do that. So that's the way she set it up, that somebody was there with her mother at all times. My neighbor that lived alone would walk around the block numerous times. He would forget how much he walked, that he would stagger. I started walking with him to keep him from doing too much. I had his son's phone number to notify if I noticed anything wrong. That's wonderful. Yeah, sometimes we have to be the sight and ears for what we see, and we may need to get a number of a daughter, a son, an uncle, an aunt to call and say, hey, look, I don't think your mother or father, auntie, sister, brother is doing very well. Can you come and check on them? So it says when to go see a general practitioner. It says if you're worried about your own memory. See, I knew I need to get here. Or think you may have dementia. It's a good idea to see a GP. And it says sometimes memory problems are not related to anything. They're just related to being older or having too much on your plate. too obligated that we sometimes forget things. It says encourage them to make an appointment and perhaps suggest that you go along with them. Memory problems are not just caused by dementia. They can be caused by depression. This is what you needed to know. Stress, depression, medicines. People don't tell you that when they get medicine that they're having symptoms, because they don't know that those symptoms are related to the medicine. They don't know it. And I remember one time I had a medicine, and I want to say it was for high blood pressure. It runs in our family. No matter how big or small you are, high blood pressure runs in the family. So anyway, I had my first high blood pressure medicine, and I remember I kept having a cough that would not stop, but it wasn't like a bad cough. It was just like a tickle kind of cough. And so when I went to the doctor for my checkup, he said, stop taking the medicine. I said, what? Well, you just gave me that medicine 2 weeks ago. He said, yeah, it's not, you're allergic to the medicine. But had I not gone back, I'd have just thought, well, getting older, got high blood pressure, therefore got a tickle. There it is. He said, no, you shouldn't have that. So he gave me another medicine, and that went away. The other one didn't. But a lot of times, do we read? How many of us read the fine print? How many? We don't always read all the symptoms that they tell you. And then sometimes they say, get this one, may cause death. Y'all know that, right? Some of the medicines that they give you say, well, but it may cause death. Even though it's going to correct this, but it may cause death. That's scary to me. Scary. It says memory problems are not caused by that. And it says also health problems. Certain other health problems that have nothing to do with dementia or Alzheimer's may be causing you your body to have some issues with your ability to think and do anything. So remember that. It says the general practitioner can carry out some simple tests to try to find out what may be causing your issues, and they will refer you to a specialist for more tests if necessary. It says I have overload amnesia. I know that's right. So much on my mind that I forget. I sometimes force myself to remember things, especially someone's name. Me too. Me too. Everybody that knows me, they always say, I don't know, how do you sleep? And I said, I do, but I am a paper person, and I tell you about my shredder. So, but I am a paper person, and I only have one file cabinet now that's full, and one that's half full, only with stuff to finish up some books. But the rest I have either scanned, and I'm starting to give away, throw away stuff that I just don't need. But I'm a writer, so I love to just put a pen. Has to be purple now. Yeah, did y'all see my purple today? Okay. I have on my purple today in recognition of Alzheimer's, but just as I'm doing this. But I'm like you, Ardelia. I write down stuff. I keep track of stuff. I do a lot of things. But one of the things it says that's important. You can look at decreasing your risk of Alzheimer's by engaging your mind, forming new brain cells, and it says some brain cells are just going to atrophy, but it's not that you're forming new ones, you're connecting ones that you still have that are working good, but they need to be spitfired now and then. Learn a new word every day. That's why I do this. Learn a new word, take a new adventure, meet new people, force yourself to learn new names, all that kind of stuff. Try something new. Do it while moving. So it says you have to move. Okay, I'm going to read all the stuff it says. It says you should move, should lose some weight. Don't be carrying around, because they said weight is an issue. Sometimes, you're going to see that happens. You're going to see, I must have typed that twice. Oh, I did. I says, but anyway, because it has unknown triggers. Okay, I'm put that out there. The triggers are unknown. Keep up with technology. Amen. Amen. I have so many friends that refuse to use a computer. And I'm saying, eventually, you're not even going to be able to write a check. Everything has gone to automation, streaming. Okay. Everything is delivered differently than what the era we grew up in was all about. There's children nowadays, they don't know anything about, tapes, VCRs, DVDs. They don't even use them anymore. In fact, that Redbox closed down. They stopped doing it. Which was, I guess, Blockbuster's like assistant. They stopped doing it. Why? Because everything is streaming. So you have to have a smart TV to get you started for that. And then you need a computer that pretty much you can ask it. You can ask the questions that Google will tell you. How do I do this and that? Follow the steps. Some cursive writing. Yes. I taught myself how to cursive write. In the area I lived in New York, they didn't teach it. So I taught myself how to do it. I did. I got a book and I learned. And that's what I do for anything. I am a book lover. I'll go get a book. Listen, whenever somebody made me mad when I was little, I'd go get a book and I'd go sit in the closet with a flashlight and I'd read. Reading and writing help you keep the brain together. Read something, write something, read something, write something. Then test yourself out on what you learned. Figure it out. What have I learned? How can I get this? Good morning, Miss Rosie. How are you doing, my friend? I do too, Ardelia. I go to the library. I got books I got to take back tomorrow. I have a meeting at the library, so I have to take some books back. But I do. I go to the library. I get my books. I bring them home. I take the information out that I want, and then I let them go. But anyway, here's some other facts. Let me get you all. This was so good. I'm thank you for indulging me today to do something different than what I normally do, where we're just conversing. Age, it says, age is a single most significant factor. That's for Alzheimer's. It said the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease doubles every 5 years after age 65. Doubles. And it says, but it's not just older people who are at risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. It says around 1 in 20 people with the condition are under 65. Meaning it doesn't care. It doesn't care. This is called early or young onset Alzheimer's disease, and it can affect people from around the age of 40 years of age. So, just because older people have more, life behind them, it doesn't mean that your life cannot be interrupted by such an aggressive disease. Family history, that it says the genes you inherit from your parents can contribute to the risk factors of developing Alzheimer's, although actual increase in risk is small. It says, but in a few families, Alzheimer's disease is caused by an inheritance of one single gene, and the risk of the condition being passed on are much higher. So not everybody will get it that way. Hey, my friend. Good morning, Chastity. I love Chastity. Chastity had the purple in her hair yesterday. Chastity, you see me, I got on my purple lipstick too. I owe you a lipstick. That's right. It says if several of your family members have developed dementia over the generations, particularly at young age, you may want to seek genetic counseling just to make sure. I don't know what popped up on my screen about yourself, and some people want to know. They want to know. Same thing with breast cancer. They want to know. They want to know. Now, things like high blood pressure, all those kind of things we know. We can figure those out because the doctor will tell you immediately. But we don't necessarily know about Alzheimer's. It just may be such a slow progressiveness in us that we don't know. We have no idea. And it says Alzheimer's disease, when you're younger, the counseling would probably be very beneficial, is what it's saying. The Alzheimer's Society website has more information about genetics of dementia. Now, it says here's some causes. Head injuries. People that fall have a tendency to end up with a problem that can be related back or to Alzheimer's disease, but much research is still needing to be done in that area. Cardiovascular disease, being overweight, smoking. Yeah, it says smoking, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure. That's a risk factor, y'all. There I am. High cholesterol. My cholesterol is extremely low. You can help reduce your risk by, here's this. Write this down. These are the ones I'm going to give you to take away. Stop smoking. I never smoked. Eating a healthy and balanced diet. I try to do. I gave up sugar too. Recently. About 5 weeks. Leading an active life. There we go, Ardelia. We in there. Chastity, we in there. Tina, we in there. Joan, we in there. We go places. Both physically and mentally. Meaning, do some Olympics with your mind. It's like you're going to get out there and walk. Do some Olympics in the mind. Okay? Read something. Then test yourself how much you know on it. Read it. Say, I'm going to read it. And then say, you know what? Let me see how much I remember from that article. Write it down. Okay? Same thing with a new word. Find a new word. Read about the word. And then go down deep diving in it. There's a book out, and I think it's called Building a Better Vocabulary. And it is a course series. And I've been trying to do some of it, but I'm having trouble getting the workbook. But I can only find the audio file. And I thought I was ordering the workbook the other day, but what arrived was CDs. Didn't I just tell you I don't fool with CDs? I have nothing to play them on anymore. So anyway, they got to go back. They have to go back. But my point is this: do something that engages your mind. every single day. Let's see. I have taken an added new interest, diamond art. Oh my God, good, 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 good. And I have finished 6 courses, getting ready to do bookmarks. Oh, that's wonderful. Watch educational programs. Girl, I'm a PBS lover. I was watching Benjamin Franklin. I had taped it, but I had never watched it. But I watched that the other day. He was interesting. Okay. Benjamin had a lot of business. He had a lot of business to do. Other thing it says, let's see. The last thing it says that you should do is get out and form friendships. Be social. Be social. Do not sit in your house all day long. Do not just let that TV just run and run and run and run. Get out among the people, among nature. Get some fresh air. Get some exercise in. Do something that is going to keep your mind with you longer, keep your body here longer, and just having a life that is fulfilling to the point that when you finally close your eyes, you have no regrets, or you have a memory that says, I did as much as I could while I was here. That's a good thing. Let's see. The last thing it says, responsible for causing dementia. So, hearing loss, untreated depression, loneliness, and social isolation, and a sedentary lifestyle. So all those things could be feeding into us getting Alzheimer's. So people always ask me, do you ever rest? I do. I don't get 7 hours, but I probably get about 6.5 hours every night. I should be getting 8, but I don't always get 8 because my body just wakes up and I'm ready to go. So I get up and write. I love the early morning time. That's my time to do stuff. But then sometimes I come in and I got something that came as my thought during the day, and I might tape it or do something, and I'll start writing some. So anyway, stay mentally and socially active, and just learning foreign languages. That's another way. Learning playing and learning a musical instrument. That's another way. Volunteering in your local community. Don't I do it? I'm out there. Okay. Taking part in some kind of group sport. I think the sports that they're doing now, some of them are less requiring of you to be really aggressive, but still getting in your heart rate getting up, and you're doing something that says yes. Heart rate up, heart rate down, cooling, hot, whatever. Try new activities and hobbies like Joan just mentioned, and then just living your life. And it says this is called brain training, where you're training your brain to do more instead of less. Listen to podcasts. I do that too. I listen to podcasts. In fact, one day I'm hoping to be a podcaster, but I don't know. I got all the equipment, and somebody said they were going to help me set it up and get started, but they're too busy, just like I'm busy. So we haven't quite gotten down to the bottom of it yet. But listen, that's today's lesson. Do something today that wards off the idea of trying to reach up and snatch down Alzheimer's. We don't want it. We don't want anybody else to have it. So that means encourage friends and family to walk with you, to play a game with you. I challenge my daughter to games, and I'm still just like I was when she was little. I don't let her beat me. She gonna have to learn the game. You gotta teach her how to learn the game. That's it. But listen, you guys have a wonderful day. If you don't do anything else, please, please, please. I think this was a good video. It was a great way to talk. I would love it if you would go ahead. I have a new word come Wednesday, but go ahead and send it out as a share. Okay. Just enjoy your day. Enjoy the next 2 days until I appear again with something that says, are you stuck? Sometimes we get stuck. See you then. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.